March is Women's History Month, where we highlight women's accomplishments that challenge society's expectations. Earlier this week, we spoke with Pat Mann Phillips, the first female board chair for the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Our next guest also made her career in a field dominated by men, oil and gas. As a child, she never thought about that, but she was aware she was the only girl in her high school calculus class. Side note, studies show girls take STEM classes and do just as well as boys in middle school, but for some reason, by high school, interest seems to plummet. Cindy Yeilding stuck with it because she just loved math. She served 35 years in the oil and gas industry as a geologist, but before retiring, she served as Senior Vice President of BP America. Good morning.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Okay, let's go back and see how all this happened, right? Let's dig up your childhood here.
Oh, no.
All right, you grew up in Dallas. Your mom was a nightclub singer turned accountant. Your dad was a Navy pilot turned developer.
Yes.
What are some of your earliest memories as a child?
I think my earliest memories were, sort of getting outside, balanced by going to choir practice, loving school, and being a total nerd.
Yeah, but you love going on like rock and fossil hunts.
Absolutely. We'd go to the lake, we'd look for fossils one day, we'd go to the beach, we'd look for rocks.
Yeah. Okay, you had, and this was a thing at our time, I think we were kind of contemporaries, you had the rock tumbling machine.
I did. Oh my gosh, I loved my rock tumbler. It was so wonderful.
Yeah.
And you had one as well?
I had one as well. In fact, I'm not sure how, okay, so at one point there was a Fisher-Price little doctor kit, and so that it spawned a whole new generation of doctors. The rock tumbling machine spawned things as well. It was my first business, so I would make jewelry and go door to door selling jewelry and for 25 cents. And so that was my impact of the rock tumbling machine. You, of course, become a world-renowned geologist.
Well, I love, you mentioned that you had a rock tumbler and it brought back a flood of geologic memories. So I wanted to honor that with a rock for you.
You have no idea how cool this is to me. I love this. Quartz, right?
It's a quartz sample, and I thought of you. It's clear. It's straight to the point, and it's beautiful. So
oh, wow.
A sample for you.
Oh, I will figure out how to make this a necklace. It'll be a necklace or a very big ring right here. I love this, Cindy. Thank you so much. All right, you had a teacher actually ask you to donate your rock collection.
I was so flattered in 5th grade. We made different sort of things for science class, and I brought a rock and fossil collection, and she actually asked me if I would donate it to the school, and I was so honored. It was sort of my first science highlight.
Yeah, even though you weren't thinking about geologists, that was something that was not in your mind. You were going back through some of your school things, and you found in what we used to have these autograph books at school, and you found what a teacher had written about you.
So the same teacher, she wrote to Cindy, a very nice girl. I had no other attributes. I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't artsy. A very nice girl and a very good geologist. And I had no idea in 5th grade that was my destiny.
Ah, okay. Like as you mentioned, you were the nerd. You tried out for school sports, even though your best friend's dad was the coach. You still didn't make the team, right? And you thought,
thanks a lot.
Yeah. You're like, I'll try ballet. And what did the ballet teacher tell you?
Well, they brought, after the annual recital, they brought my parents back and asked me to do a few moves, and they said, we suggest that you find another activity to engage in, because ballet is not for you.
It was not your thing, but one thing that was for you was math. You loved math, but you are aware, as I mentioned earlier, how so many young ladies will decide to steer away from STEM. We're trying to change that now, but you were aware that you were the only girl in your calculus class.
Oh yeah, and my teacher made it clear, constantly pointing out, and I was the cheerleader who was good at math, and he would always say, the girl in the calculus class.
Yeah.
So I just wore it like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. Headed off to college, SMU undergrad, and then you thought you'd major in art history and math, be a math major. What did you think you were do with those two things? Left side of her brain was working and the right side. Yeah.
So I thought those two would come together in architecture.
Yeah. Okay, something happened. Your mom went along with you when you registered for classes. You were already almost at the top level of how many classes you should take. And then your mom suggests, oh, look, there's a geology class.
Yeah, so what I didn't get is, I thought it was a suggestion, And I was like, great, yeah. No, it was a directive. And so my sweet, unassuming accountant mom really just bullied me into taking geology.
Okay, so like we're thinking like, Ralph, come on over here. So Ralph is our executive producer, and we were talking about geology, and so we're thinking, take a geology because it would, increase your GPA.
I took
It'd be easy
geology
class, right?
voluntarily. Your mom wasn't forcing me to do it. And I got a D in geology. And it was not good. No, I thought it was going to be easy because it's not chemistry. And just real quick, so what they would do, I got to a lab. It was like a test, and they had a bunch of rocks, and they just like 40 rocks they would pass around, and you had to name them. And I was like, feldspar for everyone. I put feldspar on half those rocks because I didn't know, and everybody else seemed like they knew what was going on, Deb.
Yeah, right.
You're so smart.
Yeah. We just say that to say this. If you have a child who thinks they're going to take geology because it's going to be easy, you talk to them again because it's not easy. This is the science of something, right? But you consider gemology kind of passed your mind for a minute there because we love anybody who would go into gemology. It's jewelry,
shiny.
But, but when you went to grad school at North Carolina, at Chapel Hill, then you started looking at what geology could mean, and oil and gas was part of it.
Absolutely. I think the type of rocks that I was studying, sedimentary rocks, were really, really sort of the main sorts of reservoirs in oil and gas. And so it was a great way to take what I was learning in the classroom and learning out in the field and apply it to help bring energy to the world.
Yeah, all right. A 35-year career of doing that. You were a key figure in BP's deepwater exploration in the Gulf. Discovery of the Thunder Horse oil field was part of what you were a part of as well.
Part of our team, yeah.
And then there's something that happened not so long ago that the world paid attention to, and it was a tough one to deal with. It's kind of like just what things that, as much as we move forward, there are things that can happen. And that was the BP oil spill. You were a part of that project as well.
So yeah, I had been on that rig multiple times. I was about to take the Discovery into my portfolio, and I was supposed to be on the rig that night and canceled at the last minute. So an absolute tragic accident with 11 men's lives lost, and it was horrible. But we went to work. We tried our hardest. We pulled. We learned a lot, but the world was watching us, and we did some things really, really well.
Spent billions of dollars to get on top of things right away.
$68 billion.
$68 billion. Yes. Wow. All right. Shattering the glass ceiling. We hear that oftentimes with women who are moving up. And I love when you say, I wasn't always, they didn't make me aware that I was a woman. I just happened to be a woman who was doing a good job. And when you're doing a good job and the blinders are kind of on, that it keeps you kind of honest to what you're doing and not affected or impacted by what somebody might think. However, there were times people underestimated you. You were in England, and you were, what was your position? The head of global?
So head of global geoscience, and I went over for my first big team meeting, about 150 employees in the UK in that office.
Yeah, and someone asked you, excuse me, ma'am, where's the tea?
Absolutely, so they mistook me for the tea lady. Yeah. So I went and found the tea lady because there wasn't any tea, and then I got up and chaired the meeting. And that poor guy looked so shocked.
I had no idea, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
what was it like working in that man's world? And what advice do you have for young women today and their parents? Because again, we still see where young ladies will be in STEM and middle school, as I mentioned, and then veer away for like they're not supposed to be in it. And societal norms are kind of hard to combat sometimes.
I think just do your best. Show people that you're very, very good at your job. And one of the things that always helped me was that the men that I worked with and the women, they had wives, they had daughters, they had sisters, they had mothers. Just find a way to relate to them and bring them excellent work, outstanding work, all the time.
Yeah, not because you're a woman, you just happen to be a woman.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's such a great point you make, is that sometimes we put more on ourselves than other people are, because those men that you talked about were like, yeah, I'm proud of my mom, I'm proud of my daughter, I want good things for my daughter as well. In fact, I want you to be a role model for my daughter. And so, sometimes we think people are thinking one thing about us, but they really are not. All right, you are continuing your education. You've retired, you could retire and stay retired and that's it, but you're somebody who seeks knowledge.
Absolutely. So I joined a couple of boards after after I retired from BP, so I joined the board of Denbury, working on carbon capture. So really exciting to be a part of the energy transition. And I'm currently the board chair for the Center for Houston's Future. I roll off of that soon, and so I was looking at what's next. So I've applied and been awarded a couple of fellowships. I'm going through the process of deciding which one, and I'll be working on how to help people, especially youth, better understand the energy system and the options available to them.
Things are changing. We're widening our options. Cindy, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for oh my God, I love this. Of course. Okay, more Great Day after the break.